tell me, when did you personally become interested in space?
Well, when I was a kid, the Apollo stuff was happening, and I remember, watching on a black and white TV when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, and I think, like all kids, I wanted to go do that. But then I kind of, as I got older, I kind of went away from that dream, if you will, and went off to do other things. And my whole life, I always wanted to fly airplanes, and my dad was an engineer. I wanted to be an engineer, and so I kind of looked for an opportunity. Well, gosh, what could I do that would allow me to do both engineering and fly airplanes? And so I saw the Air Force Academy as an opportunity to do that. So I was fortunate enough to get selected, went there, went to school, got an engineering degree, and then got to fly airplanes afterwards. And so then I was a pilot for several years, and but then I wasn't applying my engineering, I was just flying. I thought, well, gosh, what kind of job could I do where I can combine engineering and flying? And so I thought, well, gosh, that's what a test pilot does. And so I applied and was accepted into Air Force Test Pilot School and graduate school. And so I went off and did that, and that was a great job because then I got to bridge the gap between the operational pilot and the engineer designing systems as a test pilot, and I got to use my education and my love of flying and put them together and do that. And so I did that and loved being a test pilot, and but then after I'd done that for a while, I realized, well, gosh, I'm qualified maybe for the astronaut program, and I might as well give it a shot. The worst they could do is say no. And so I applied, and they must have got my paperwork mixed up with somebody else's, and I was fortunate enough to get selected, and so here I am. So it was really, I was kind of enjoying the journey along the way, doing the things that I wanted to do, and I just reached a point in my career where it lined up with being an astronaut, and decided to take a chance, and so that's how it kind of ended up. So I ended up kind of not in a direct path, or not a path that I expected, but that's how life works sometimes.
How long were you with NASA for?
I was there for 16 years. So I flew 5 space shuttle missions and did a whole bunch of other things, and had a wonderful time there. It was a great job, really enjoyed it, learned a lot.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you the commander for STS-133?
Yes, I was commander for STS-133, which was the final flight of Discovery. So.
I know these sort of things used to happen all the time, but were you frustrated at all that there were so many delays with that mission before it finally took off?
Oh, with STS-133, it was my turn to delay because the first 4 flights I flew, we launched pretty much on time, and which is very unusual in the space shuttle program. But so we took about, I guess by all said and done, maybe 3 or 4 month delay before we finally got airborne on that one. But prior to that flight, I was the chief of the astronaut office, so I was involved in the management side on all of these space shuttle and space station flights, and I know how the process works. Safety is paramount. We make sure everything is absolutely ready before we go fly. So as commander, and certainly as any crew member, the general thinking out there is people think the crew just can't wait to go. We got to go, go, go. But the truth is, we're thinking about the safety and making sure everything's right just as much as everybody else is, and we don't want to launch before it's right. So it's hard to delay, but on the other hand, it was the right thing to do, and so if it's the right thing to do, you just accept that. I don't want to walk out and fly. I mean, the day we walked out to fly, they were filling the tank and we had a big hydrogen leak. Well, I don't want to go on the vehicle, neither does anybody else with a big hydrogen leak. So you got to fix that problem and make sure the vehicle is absolutely ready to go. So accepting a delay and being willing to delay when you get this thing called launch fever, where everybody wants to launch, is a good thing. It tells you that the process is working, that the people that are there supporting us and making sure the mission's ready to go are doing their job, and they're saying, no, we are not going because we are not ready. And the same will be true when we go to fly into space with our vehicle. If the vehicle isn't ready, if we're not confident about the safety, or if there's some issue, we're going to pound them all flat before we go fly. You have to do that in space flight.
Absolutely, that's wonderful. What would you say are some of the highlights of your career at NASA?
Highlights? Well, let's see. Obviously, all the missions were highlights, but the truth is, as an astronaut, most of your time is spent supporting somebody else's mission, not your own. I think probably the biggest highlight of my career at NASA really has to do with the people I had the opportunity to work with. It's a fantastic team. It's a large team, but they're all very motivated. Nobody's there for the money. Everybody's there because they believe in human spaceflight, much like the commercial business is here. Nobody's here. There's a lot of things you can go out and do and make a lot of money. This is probably not one of them, The people are here because they're passionate and they believe in what they're doing and they want to make a difference. And in our case, we want to go back into low Earth orbit and get our nation back into low Earth orbit, consistently doing that and insource that back into the United States. But in the NASA world, it's the same thing. We're passionate about the shuttle, about the space station, about the space program, about exploration. I had a great group of people to work with, and consistently through everything that I did, whether it be flying missions, chief of the office, I led a cockpit development for the space shuttle where I got to redesign the shuttle cockpit. All of that was wonderful stuff to do. But when I look back on my NASA career, I don't really look at the things I got to do or the missions I got to fly or those personal achievements. Yeah, whenever I think about all those things, I think of the people that I got to work with. And I think that's true in any profession, in any job. It's all about the people you get to work with, not so much what you personally get to do or the achievements you make.